Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Adam Tiffen.
The wait is finally over as United pick up a home win on a Saturday for the first time in almost a year as the Bluebirds are beaten at Brunton Park. We look back on the 1-0 win over our friends down the coast and ask whether this result will kickstart our season.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run. The old one too.
Oh, that was enjoyable at the weekend, wasn't it?
Very
maybe not so
enjoyable.
much the last few minutes. That was painful.
No, not at all.
Times,
I smacked my heel off the back of the steps on the paddock when they scored, just in pure frustration. But then I saw that flag go up, and I wasn't even happy. I was just relieved.
Mate, I think everybody was, to be fair. I think the ironic cheer was very much a cheer of relief as much as anything, wasn't it? But
It was funny, to be fair, seeing the Barrow bench that had rushed onto the field having to go back with their heads in their hands.
Yeah, that was quite funny, to be fair. But yeah, as we'll discuss in a minute, it was the correct decision. So there you go. Yeah, good weekend all round though.
Definitely, yeah, and it's not just the result, probably as you just alluded to. It's all the other things that have gone on. You know, the improvements to the ground, some of the noise coming out of from the Piatics, the change in name of our sponsor, and all the new developments of that as well. So yeah, it's been generally positive, like you said.
Yeah, well, that brings us on quite nicely then, yes, because this season we are now sponsored by the Carlisle United Supporters Trust. Yes, you got it right. That is the official name now, formerly known as CUOSC. It was officially confirmed over the weekend, the name change, a new logo, new website, all kinds. You can find out about them at www.cuust.org.uk. Is their new website. Well worth a look on there to find out about things, about everything you need to know about them. They had a meeting at the weekend, a supporters meeting that went really well. The Piatics spoke as well. I think Tom spoke for 45 minutes without notes.
I know.
Damn impressive. You know, he's also, I'm not really prepared for this, and then bang, goes out and does that. Unbelievable, really. But we're not going to go into too much detail on that today. We're going to talk about that in the preview for the MK Dons game, because we've got a bit of extra time to speak about it then. But there'll be plenty to cover from that, including a potential pre-season trip to America coming up next summer, which will be nice. But yes. So they're sponsors this season. They're helping us out in terms of equipment and stuff like that. We'll have a proper little audio bit to go in there soon. Because basically we're going to get someone to actually do something professional to make it sound better there, basically, rather than me rambling on for God knows how long. Ko-fi, got to remind you about that. ko-fi.com/Brunton Bugle, where if you want to just chip us a couple of quid, buy us a pint, a cup of coffee, whatever you want to describe it, just as a thank you for the work we're doing, we really, really appreciate that. You don't have to. We'll still continue to do this all for free. It just helps us with stuff like studio costs, hosting costs, and things like equipment. We're going to buy a little bit of extra equipment so we can do a few interviews coming up for some interview episodes. But yeah, if you could contribute towards that would be really, really appreciated. Thank you to everyone who's done so far. We had quite a few contributions coming in. It's really, really kind. Also, the Fantasy League, have you kept an eye on that, Adam? How are you doing?
I have, and I was hoping you'd mention that because I believe I'm 4th in the league.
Ooh.
I don't know how many it's out of 94, so not too bad.
That's a decent effort, that, to be fair, right?
I would have been better, but I brought in Michael Cooper, who's just gone to Sheffield United, expecting him to start, as Chris Wilder mentioned, but he didn't, so I got no points from him.
Well, I'm like lower mid-table-ish. I'm 61 out of 94 so far. I didn't have the best first week, but actually this week, we got 56 game points. So I'm fairly happy with that, to be fair. For the first week, it was the second week. Sorry, the first week's the one that killed me. Mainly because I had Wyke and Mellish in there, and obviously Mellish scored, but obviously conceded goals also. I'm trying to look up how did I score this week. I'm just having a look at my team while we're talking here, and for game week 2, John Mellish got me 12 points. He was my vice captain. He had an assist and a clean sheet, so that was good. Charlie Wyke as my captain didn't score, but double my points there. The rest of them are pretty average. I think Vitinho from Burnley as well got me a few points too.
He's a steal because he's playing right wing basically for them, and he's listed as a defender.
Yeah, I've got him in there. And my two teams were Carlisle United and Huddersfield, and I didn't realise this till just now. This is something for people to keep an eye out on. You're only allowed to pick a team 5 times a season.
Yep.
And I got Carl with that. I was like, oh, God, I didn't even realise. So I've gone in and changed that. So now I've got, I can't remember exactly who I've put in there. I think I've put in Chesterfield and Doncaster for the next week. But yeah, well worth taking part in. So, get involved if you are. I mean, I don't know if you can still join the league or not at this point. Probably not.
You'd be able to. It's just if you haven't started the team, or so if you've already started and you've been playing it, just not involved in our league, then that's fine. You should still be able to join the league and just slot in wherever your points dictate you would be. But yeah, I think if you haven't started yet, obviously you'll be a little bit behind. Yeah.
Shout out to M. Yarker, who's top of the league at the moment, with his team Tough Half Against the Breeze, which is a very good name, by the way. Yes, he's in first place. Second place is S. Whitehead. It's not Stuart Whitehead, surely not, former Blues player. I think it's just someone who has a similar-ish name. But yeah, so Adam, you are clearly the best performer out of all the Bugle.
I mean, it is my job to know about the EFL.
It is,
so
yeah.
I should be, logically.
Yes, you should really, but there you go. Yeah, so get involved in that if you aren't already. It's all good fun. Hope we'll see how it goes over the season. And also, if you want to get in contact with us, you can find us on Twitter, at Brunton Bugle, or X as it's known these days. Some great stuff on there. At Brunton Bugle on Instagram as well. You can find us on Facebook too. And obviously, if you want to email us, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Right then, it's time to look back on this weekend's game.
Carlisle United 1, Barrow 0.
Yep, it's Carlisle United against Barrow match review. And as the ghost of James Alexander-Gordon said there, and oh God, I just realised you're not going to recognise that, are you, Adam?
No, I do.
You do?
Recognise
you do.
it.
Okay,
I do recognise it. I maybe didn't grow up with his voice, but I do recognise the iconic reading of the results.
Yeah, so James Alexander-Gordon, obviously, for those who don't know, for years and years and years, he was the iconic, basically, person who read out the scores at 5 o'clock every Saturday on Grandstand, or final scores it became in the end. And yeah, his family have kindly let these clever guys on Twitter take his voice and use AI to essentially read out the results again every Saturday. So if you want to find them, I'm going to find the Twitter feed now. I had it open a minute ago, but
I think it's like at JAG results or something.
Right. Yes, it's at GAG. So GAG results will give you basically the results each weekend. So we're going to try and do that each week now as our little introduction bit to take us in.
What, even if we get battered?
Yeah, just, might as well. You've got to stick to it. Remember, we've got principles on this podcast. We always say that, and we always stick to them as much as we can. So there you go. Yeah, well, Carlisle 1, Barrow 0. All round, probably not in many ways not as an impressive performance as against Stoke at times, and some of the other stuff we've done against Gillingham. But as an all-round team performance, it was exactly what we needed, wasn't it?
Yeah, and as you'll find out from the predictions table later, I think me and you had the same idea of getting the lead and then scoring late on, which wasn't necessarily close to happening, but at least in my mind, I thought we were going to control the game for the most part. I don't think we were really threatened at all, which is why I didn't. No. I know they had a good midfield, but it just wasn't much up front. Like I heard when you were chatting to I've forgotten her name now, Freya, from the Barrow Social.
Yeah.
And she was talking about Emil Aqua and all of his strengths, and I just wasn't convinced.
No.
And that proved to be right in the end. He was pretty useless.
Yeah,
but like you said, it's overall I think a very solid performance, even though technically in terms of pure football it wasn't as good as I'd argue even we played against Gillingham.
Yeah, no, I think I'd agree with that one really. I think we went a little bit more back to basics, and it paid dividends in a game where we needed to do that. We played it very much like a derby. They didn't. I know there's going to be people who argue about whether it's a derby, including Dan, one of our very own hosts. He's not convinced, but then again, his 8-0 prediction was miles out again. But there you go. In fact, Mike was crowing. He's saying stop the count because he got the goal scorer right, didn't he? So
yeah.
I thought, did he get the scoreline right? One of the two. I can't remember. Wasn't it the scoreline? Wasn't it? So he's top of the table at the moment.
Dan didn't even get one of the goal scorers right.
No.
He's done it again.
Yeah, how he's managed to do that, I don't know, but there you go. Right, ahead of this one, the team news, I think we wondered if there might be slight tweaks here and there. We wondered if Armstrong might come in. As it was exactly the same team that started against Gillingham, which means Jack Ellis dropped to the bench in place of Ben Williams from the Tuesday night game against Stoke City. The only change was on the bench where Luke Armstrong was unavailable due to his partner going into labour. So hopefully get some good news on that one very soon. But yeah, much more important things for Luke to be worrying about rather than a 3 o'clock kickoff. Although I think Simo was saying after the game, wasn't he, that when he was at Oxford, he was threatened with a 2 weeks wages fine. 2
weeks wages.
Which is remarkable, really, when you think that times have very much changed. I think it's fair to say since the 80s. As a result, Sam Hetherington kept his place on the bench. Were you particularly surprised to see him not only stick with the same 11, but also stick with Barkley in midfield over maybe pushing Mellish in there?
No, I think under the circumstances, I think that was probably the smart thing to do. If he was going to go with Mellish, I think he would have done it from the start of the season. I don't think he would have switched now, and I don't think he would have switched either to putting Dan Butterworth in midfield. I thought this was a game that all derbies, no matter the discrepancy in quality, they're usually tight. There's not usually just unlike 2 seasons ago where there's just a complete runaway winner. There's usually some sort of back and forth in those games, and I just felt with Barkley we had more. For what you're giving up and what you're getting, I think it was worth having the more defensive side of it. To have somebody who's he's not as good on the ball, but he's capable. Whereas I think Butterworth can almost lack in both regards at times, but he also can be brilliant going forward. So I wasn't surprised to see him stick with the same team, and ultimately I think he got proven right with his decision.
Yeah, I 100% agree there. I think I can totally get why he's doing it. He's, it's about building a bit of consistency up there, because you think last season we were chopping and changing so much. To actually pick a consistent 11, and I'm you know what, I think even if we get a midfielder in this week, I wouldn't be surprised if he stuck with the same 11 next weekend against MK Dons. I depending on what midfielder comes in, but I think he might think, let's not disrupt it just yet, and the other person can sort of work their way into the team almost. Cause
I think if it's a younger player, because I know he said something about a loan's potentially more likely for somebody in that position. So I think that would definitely be the case. I don't think they'd chuck him in straight away unless they thought we've got an absolute gem here. He's worth it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. First half an hour of the game, I thought we were pretty much in control. I thought the only chance I've got written down for them in the first half an hour or so was there was a cross from the right by Mahoney that found Newby at the far post, and he headed over the bar. And I think that's about it, really. When you look at the chances, it was pretty much all us, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of people in the paddock, and we were quite close to it, who were complaining that it might have been might have gone out of play, but it didn't look like it. It was close, but it didn't look like it to me. But yeah, I don't know what you thought about Mahoney. Maybe we can talk about this in a bit more detail a little bit later. But he looked good in moments, but he just looked like he didn't know how to finish off what he was doing. Because he chopped back a couple of times and get in a good position to cross, and then he just wouldn't.
He very much flattered to deceive, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's the way I describe it. Yeah, well, 100% we'll talk about him when we talk about the Barrow a bit, because we'll talk about some of their better performance, if you want to call them that. But yeah, in terms of early chances, there was a good little bit of football down the right that led to Villa poking one over the bar. There was another one where Daniel Adu-Adjei sort of left Eccleston for a hot dog, didn't he? He turned him inside out, got away down the left, and then he eventually came to Barkley and hit a low shot that was deflected wide. There was another good one where a free kick from Williams into the box fell to Adu-Adjei again, and his shot was blocked behind, and then Hayden heads one against the post from a corner from Williams. So we were just slowly but surely peppering their goal, weren't we? And then the goal sort of came out of nothing almost, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's obviously, I don't know if it's something that they'd maybe planned for to try, and I know they like those sort of balls into wide areas for the strikers. Yeah. Usually they'd go to Wyke and he'd try and flick them on or bring it down and then offload it to somebody else, but obviously went towards Adu-Adjei this time. And I can't remember who it was. Somebody was talking about the fact that a few times before the goal went in, there was a similar scenario where Vassell was on the ball facing his own goal, and Adu-Adjei, they've been too close or given him too much room to turn and pass or whatever. But on this one, he just sort of hung on his shoulder. And nowadays, the defenders, they're looking for any sort of contact to go down. Yeah. I don't know where exactly you were stood in the paddock, but it looked like, even from my tight angle, that there was nothing in it at all.
I'm literally.
But I was still expecting the referee to blow the whistle, just because they always get given, no matter what.
Yeah, well, I literally stand just below where the camera is now, in the paddock, essentially. And, my first thought was, he's dived there. Like, I was like, well, what's he doing? He's tripped over his own feet.
That's what I thought as well.
I think Adu-Adjei thought, I don't think Adu-Adjei thought he touched him, but he thought he's going to get something. And he was like, oh, he's not. And he was away suddenly. He's down the left into the box, cuts inside, and he sort of just waits. And you're all screaming out, square to Wyke. And then we're like, has he scored? We couldn't quite believe it. How has he managed to do that from that angle? Now we've seen it back. I don't know what on earth Paul Farman is thinking for that goal. I'm just confused.
I thought at first when I saw it, it took a deflection. I just could not understand why he would have reacted in that way to the shot, because it wasn't like a powerful shot that, like Jack Nolan when we played against Gillingham, who just rifled it into the top of the net, just pure instinct reaction, nothing you can do, he's absolutely smashed it. It wasn't like a really hard shot. He almost looked like he sort of chipped past it into the net. And I still can't work out what part of the goal it went in, really, like whether it went in, more towards the post or pretty much down the centre. It was such an odd goal. Obviously, I didn't care about that at the time, but it was it was just I don't know how to describe it, but a goal that really shouldn't have been, probably.
I'm just watching it again there on YouTube while you're talking. It just goes straight down the middle. It literally goes right by his hands, and he almost pulls his hands away. And I don't. He was one of these keepers, Farman. Look, he can have his good moments for you, but there was always a feeling of because he was so hyperactive, you do wonder sometimes if his concentration would go, and it kind of felt like that on that moment. I just don't get what he was doing. It's a really, really strange one.
No, it's inexplicable.
But following on from that, I was actually quite surprised at how much we were still on top when I watched back the extended highlights. I had this feeling that Barrow had a couple of chances, but in my head, I look back, I was like, actually, no, they didn't, because Lewis didn't have a save to make in the game.
Yeah. And
actually, there was plenty of opportunities. Barkley had a decent effort from long range, after a good run by Adu-Adjei. And into the second half, there was a lovely bit of play from Neil playing the ball to Williams on the left, and he played it into Vela, who sort of scuffed it into the ground, really. Couldn't get a good contact on it. And, the rare chance they had, I think, was a chance for Emile Aqua from a cross from Mahoney that he sort of headed well over the bar under pressure from Hayden. But beyond that, for United, Wyke had a really good chance, actually. When I look back at it, he should really it was an awkward sort of bounce. It was almost at neck height rather than head height. It was a weird one. But I think Charlie Wyke, who's already scored a couple of goals, probably scores that one, doesn't he?
Is that from the free kick you're talking about? Yeah. That was, it's just one of those ones where, again, it's not one that you're thinking, oh, he's got to score, but you're just thinking he's so close. If he's half a foot further forward, he's getting something on that, and he's probably directing it into the goal. But I thought we created a lot, especially from wide areas with the wing backs, which I think is going to be something that's really central to how we play this season. I'm pretty sure, I'm not mistaken what game it was, that there was a chance in the first half of Vela, I think it was crossed in by Davies or something like that, and he sort of hit it on the half volleys, maybe not the right word, because it took a decent bounce before he volleyed it, and it went over the bar. I think that was in the first half. But the activity from wide areas, I know there's a lot of complaints about us not having a winger, and I do understand and probably agree with those, but with the way that we set up, at least initially, that's where our creativity is going to come from. And it's just good that we've now got the defenders behind them who can say to them, you know what, we've got it here. You don't need to worry about us. You go bomb on, create, be involved in the attack. We can sort things out defensively. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think there was two more real chances. I got one where Adu-Adjei did brilliantly to win the ball back off of the cell. Played it into Wyke, who laid off for Williams, and he hit it a long way wide. And then the last real chance was Georgie Kelly nearly scoring goal of the season from the halfway line after getting the ball back off Campbell and spotting Farman off his line. Just a little bit off target with that effort, unfortunately. And then came the one real Barrow chance at the end, and they thought they'd nicked a point, didn't they? Initial free kick into the box, which was never a free kick, by the way. Brilliant tackle by Villa. I don't know how on earth he got booked even for that. It was just...
It's just because he's gone in with both feet, but it's not like he's gone up with both feet.
No.
He's just gone for the ball with both feet, and he's won it cleanly. There's no contact with the player. The player just jumps over it. But nowadays they're going to always cut those. Try and cut those out of the game. Yeah.
Well, it's obviously the free kick in was because Farman had come off the free kick as well. Was headed out clear by Mellish, and Kouyaté hooked the ball back in. And Vassell and Dallas went for the ball. Dallas is the one who bundled it into the net. And I was down by the paddock game at this point. And I was like, oh, for God's sake. And then I realised straight away that the flag had gone up and the ironic cheers went around the ground. And having seen it from a few angles, both the TV one and also an angle from the Barrow end, it's an offside. I think the lineman's got it absolutely spot on, to be fair. I think both Vassell and Dallas were offside, actually, when you look at the clip from the Barrow end. So... a sigh of relief when that was given, because he was a bit of a fussy referee, to say the least, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when we were looking at the ref in the previews to the game, that was referenced the amount of cards that had been given out in his prior matches, so it wasn't necessarily a surprise. But yeah, it's just one where you think, in a derby, do you want to, for something like that, do you want to risk somebody getting sent off for something, pretty innocuous, and then that switching the game entirely? It's just, it's just frustrating.
Well, we've committed 11 fouls and we've had 5 players booked. Now, admittedly, one of those was for kicking the ball away for Davis.
Yeah.
But still, you don't need to give that many out. It's just stupid, really. But there you go. But anyway, we held on. Got the point. The 3 points even that we deserved, I think, for our efforts. And it was just a lovely relief feeling around that noise when the final whistle went, and the way the bench celebrated. You could tell that was a real relief, and also the Piatics as well in their new box as well celebrating it. They were all really delighted, weren't they?
Yeah, it was good getting to look up and see them, because obviously that must be the first win that they've witnessed live, I'd imagine. Because all the other games last season, they wouldn't have been at the ones we won. They would have gone to Burton and...
Don't think they were at Port Vale, were they?
No, not on New Year's Day, I don't think. They were at least celebrating like it was their first victory. Yeah. It looks like, from just because of where we were in the paddock, it looked like the balconies for the boxes were a bit sort of wider than it looks actually in person. It looks like there's actually not too much room to move about around there. It's pretty thin, the balcony, but it looks like there's quite a lot of space from the way they were jumping around after the game.
Yeah, they looked absolutely delighted. And can I just say, Nick Damasi look like for the man from Del Monte? There's a reference that Nick will not get now when he's listening to that, but plenty of our listeners. But for those wondering, he was wearing a lovely white suit at the game, I have to say. So
you could spot him from a mile off.
Yeah, you couldn't miss him. But yeah, the man from Del Monte. God, even like the man from Del Monte adverts haven't been on for years. I need to update my references, really. I don't know. There you go. Colonel Sanders maybe is the best one for him, I suppose. But there you go. Yes. So let's get on to 6-second reviews then before we talk about the game. In fact, let's take a short break actually before we get the 6-second reviews, and we'll be back with some of our regular panellists to talk about the game.
This is John Mellish. You're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
And we're back into part 2 of this week's review episode of the Brunton Bugle, looking back on the 1-0 win over Barrow at the weekend. And we're on to 6-second reviews. So this is where you guys send us in your thoughts on the game. We've got some regulars who join in. But if you ever want to take part, just drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com, and we'll get you sorted and onto the list of the regulars that we bother to try and get a review. Who do you want to start with? We've got Craig, Johnny and Regan. I think I want to save Regan to last. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. So we'll go with Johnny.
Let's go with Johnny first. So Johnny, you're first.
So Saturday, we just needed 3 points on the board, didn't we? It didn't matter how we did it. And I think the words I would use to describe it was just competent. We looked in midfield. We looked good. I thought everyone was talking about Barrow running over us in midfield. Didn't happen. Harrison Neal and Vela, just solid midfield performance, wasn't it? Tough tackles. Ben Barkley, for a defender who's probably, 10th in the pecking order to play in midfield, probably further down if everyone was fit. Yeah, didn't look out of place whatsoever. Defensively, the one thing I would say is I hope that Terrell Thomas' injury isn't too bad, because he looks like a fantastic signing for this league. Just looks really good player, doesn't he? Up front, Charlie Wyke, Adu-Adjei, they look like they're understanding each other a bit better now, what each other's doing. So that bodes well for the future. Before the game as well, just really good to see, wasn't it, round at the fan zone? Everyone having a good time, the music pumping. Saw loads of faces who from Carlisle, but I know aren't Carlisle fans, and they were there. And that's a good sign, isn't it? It's an event, there's a buzz about the place, people want to be there. So on to Saturday, MK Dons haven't had a great start. I know they were sort of fancied before the season started, but they haven't had a great start. We've got that win now. Take a bit of momentum there, and there's no reason why we can't come away with 3 points. And yeah, so important that result on Saturday, and I think we just need to move on from there. Pressure's off a little bit, we've got the points on the board, and yeah, kick on and hopefully have a good season, which I think we can have.
Pretty thorough there from Johnny, getting ahead of himself there, doing a preview of the MK Dons game as well. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot of what he said there, stuff we're actually going to cover in a minute, to be fair, in the talking points from the game, so we'll come back onto them. Let's do Craig's 6-second review now.
At least it's 3 points. I think some things still need to change. I'm really pleased with Dan Adu-Adjei, I think that's his name though. Personally, I don't think Wyke's doing enough. I think he could be showing a bit more energy and running for 1 or 2 more balls. That's just me though. But we can't just rely on a young lad up there. If something doesn't change, I think we look at Armstrong. But that's just me. I think Thomas has had a shaky start, but a clean sheet's a clean sheet. And also in the second half especially, I think Archie Davies was making the majority of our chances. And I was really pleased with him, to be fair. He played quite well. And Ben Williams, he's a great player. I just don't think that... I think there's a lack of communication between him and Mellish. There was once or twice where they were taking each other's balls and having a go at each other for things. But that can be worked on. I think you can only look forward, and in the end it's 3 points and something to work on. Up the Blues.
He's got some high standards, hasn't he, Craig?
I was going to say.
I don't think Charlie had a bad game. I thought he was,
No, I didn't think so either. I think with Wyke, he's having to, because we don't have that creative outlet from midfield, at least naturally, he's having to drop in and link up play. And be that, link between the attack and the midfield. So I do think once we get somebody in to assist in that regard, he'll be unlocked. But yeah, he's got some high standards. I
think a lot of people as well are looking at Wyke and they're expecting goals, aren't they? That's the first thing they're thinking. They're expecting there's going to be loads of goals because his past record, and it's going to take him time to find his feet again. Because you don't play that regularly, and at Rotherham, he was in a team that was struggling there for half a season. So give it a little bit of time. I'm pretty sure he'll come good. I have no doubt about that.
Just on,
go on.
I was going to say on Terrell Thomas. I know Craig seems to not be, maybe not fully convinced. Might not be the right way to put it, but still yet to be wowed by him. Maybe is the better way. But I think obviously the goal at Gillingham that he set up for them wasn't good. But apart from that, I genuinely think he's been an outstanding signing. I think he looks so calm at the back and such a assuring presence. And to be fair, when he came off, Lavelle did, covered for him well enough. Did all he had to do. And it's just good news that his injury doesn't seem to be one that's massively concerning, but you just got to cross your fingers.
Exactly. Right, let's wrap the 6-second reviews up with Regan's.
Yeah, I think it was a game of two halves, to be honest. Deservedly went in with the lead at half-time. Great finish after a mistake from their centre-half. And it probably could have been more, but we didn't really create them kind of clear-cut chances. The second half, it was just a real dedicated performance. I think we just stuck in there, won the individual battles and come away deservedly with 3 points. I'm not surprised the line flagged theirs for offside, because the amount of times they were offside in the second half was ridiculous. There must have been close to double figures on that count. But yeah, by all means, not a perfect performance, quite far off that, but all that mattered from Saturday was getting 3 points on the board, and it's a good building block going forward, especially if we had some midfielders into the camp. So yeah, on to MK Dons now, and shag as shag. It's as simple as that. Up the Blues.
Oh, I've missed that.
It was
Really?
happening at some point.
Really
It was
have,
going to come.
I really have missed that. It's good to hear it again. Yeah, can't really disagree a huge amount with what Regan said there, Ian,
Yeah.
to be fair. I think it's pretty fair. I mean, the amount of times they were offside was ridiculous.
Well, I'll tell you, they were offside 7 times
Wow.
in the game. I don't know what the split is between whether it's... I mean, I think all of them, to be fair, were in the second half. I don't remember one in the first half with Aqua or any of those lots, so I'd imagine
well,
at least a majority of them were in the second half.
How many times were we offside out of interest?
1.
Because I have a feeling that might be one of the only 2 times we've been offside this season so far, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we're really playing in that sort of style, but I
No.
think that's because we are more possession-based. And I think that's maybe why, if you did want to bring in Armstrong instead of Adu-Adjei, I don't think it'd make that much difference, because while Adu-Adjei's threat of pacing behind obviously does work, I don't think we're reliant on it. I think we're playing in a different style. It's just sort of nice to have that different option if need be to go over the top. But I think the way that we're playing encompasses and allows more people to come in and come out of the squad more freely, rather than having a more... I mean, it's still quite a regimented system, but it's not one that's solely reliant on one single attribute.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said before, by no means a classic, was it really? But, deserved the 3 points. I think, a real team effort. I'd say it's hard to give anyone less than a 7 out of 10 for that game. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd probably agree. I can't think of anybody who I think put in a poor performance. But equally, you could argue there's nobody that really got more than a 7 or 8 or something like that. But I'm happy with that. In a game like that, I don't need everyone to be a worldie and then some people to let us down. You'd rather have that consistent base, that reliable base that you can bank on every single week. And hopefully that's something that will continue to build up as the weeks go on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we needed, basically. We needed a result, basically, from this game, didn't we? Mm-hmm. If we'd drawn the game, a performance would have been important to me. But if we were winning it, it didn't matter. That's the key thing for me, essentially, whatever happens.
I'd probably agree with that, yeah.
Let's throw some stats out there, then. So, as I think it's been said quite widely, first home win since New Year's Day. First home win on a Saturday for 350 days since the 2-0 win over Shrewsbury Town, which is also our last home clean sheet. So Barrow are now going to wait for a win against us. Will stretch to... It'll be just short of 65 years, 1 month short of 65 years come next March when they get the next chance to potentially beat us. And that's 13 games without defeat against them in the league now. So... yeah.
It continues. As I said in my prediction, I thought that streak would continue, and lo and behold, we were all, not just me to be fair, we were all proved right.
Yeah, we were. Just a shame we could get that second goal to maybe
no.
give us the point instead of Mike, but there you go. Talk a bit about the opposition before we talk about United first. I mean, we had them, they were built up a little bit in the preview to the game by others, I think it's fair to say, their midfield. And we did say it looked a decent enough midfield. I wasn't really sold on them, though, to be honest. I was quite disappointed. I was expecting, a decent possession, passing based midfield. It was going to cause us problems, and they got bullied off the park, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably doesn't help them that I don't think their defenders are maybe as confident on the ball, so they don't have as easy of an option to get it into those midfielders. But
yeah,
I mean, I know everyone was making, a point about the fact that we'd lost our first 2 games. They'd won their first 2. They beat Crewe, who were in the playoff final last year. Port Vale were obviously tipped to be one of the favourites to go up. But I mean, Crewe, I wasn't convinced by them at the start of the season. They've been handed an absolute battering by Chesterfield this weekend. Port Vale, when they played Barrow, put out basically their second team. It wasn't a full strength team, and a lot of the Barrow players that played against us were in that squad, if I'm correct in saying that. I believe I am. So yeah, I didn't make as much of the fact that they'd won 2, we'd lost 2. I didn't see it as much of an issue. And yeah, just the attacking outlets in the team just didn't worry me. Yeah. The midfield, obviously, had they been able to create and dominate and control the ball, would have been a problem. But I think with the midfield that we've got, it's quite combative, and we're going to get the ball back eventually. We've got the players to win the ball back, and so I didn't think they'd be able to control the game enough for the midfield or their midfield to completely run it.
No, I think you're absolutely right there. I mean, they do look like they have a couple of decent players, and I thought the right back Eccleston looked a handy little player. Not as good as Davies, I have to say, on the other side for us, but I thought he looked good. What I will say about Eccleston, we remarked on this while we were still in the paddock. Has he got the thinnest legs you've ever seen on a professional footballer? Like,
to be honest with you, Lee, I didn't pay much attention to his
honestly,
legs.
Go back and watch the highlights. They are there was no muscle on them at all. It's like proper sparrow legs. It's just ridiculous. So fair play. No, like I said, decent little player. I was fairly impressed by him. Yeah, but like I said, the midfield looked lightweight. We bullied them all over the pitch. And we've already touched him, but Emil Aqua up front, he just looked like a cart horse to me. I didn't see what the big build-up for him was all about, really. And then Dean Campbell in midfield, who looked a very good player when he was at Stevenage a couple of years ago. I thought he absolutely lost his head in the second half at times, because there was one point where he got absolutely smashed by Harrison Neal. Thought he should have got a free kick, and he didn't. And to be fair, I think Neal might have gone through the back of him at that point. And then they took a throw in and played it quick to him, and he kicked it straight out of play, didn't he?
Yeah.
At that point, you're like, we've got them rattled a bit here.
Well, I think he also gave the ball away pretty soon after or before that as well, when he was facing his own goal. I don't know if that led to one of the chances that we mentioned earlier. I can't quite remember. But there just was a distinct lack of cutting edge to their team, which seemingly, by the way that their manager was speaking after the game, was present in the other two games, because obviously they scored a couple of goals prior to the weekend. But they didn't really pose much of a threat. There wasn't any time, really, where the only time where I thought they might score was just because of corners and set pieces. But that's just because of the threat that any team has on a corner or set piece, where you don't know what's going to happen. There can be a bit of a bundle, a scramble, and it can drop to anybody. But in open play, there was nothing really that made me nervous.
No, I'd agree with you on that one. So if we're going to pick out who we think their top performer is, are we sort of agreeing on Eccleston, the right back?
Yeah, it'd probably be not necessarily a pick of a bad bunch, but not an amazing choice of players.
The only one who stood out, and even then he was outshone by the right wing back on our team, so who we'll talk about in just a sec. I mean, like I said, the thing that surprised me watching those extended highlights is just actually how many chances we had. It didn't even really occur to me that we actually had more. I mean, when you look at the stats, it does say, was it 13 shots it was? 8 on target. In fact, that's not right. 8 on target, is it, I think? Or is it? Yeah, it is.
Let me just double check. I think it might be right.
Yeah, I didn't realise we had that many on target. Yeah, so 13 shots. And actually 14 chances really in total then, because that doesn't include Wyke's chances, does it? So
no, actually it says 3 on target here, so you might have just seen double when you were going over it. But I think the main point to make from it is they had 0 shots on target.
Yeah,
obviously that's the thing at the end, but that's not on target. It was ruled out.
Disallowed. Yeah,
it's offside. And I heard Stephen Clements talking after the game about he thought that a fair result would have been a draw, which I think is hard to argue when your team has 0 shots on target.
Yeah. I mean, Lewis, on to Harry Lewis, actually, then. That brings us quite nicely, We're only going to briefly mention him this year. We mentioned him in both the opening games, and we got a little bit of stick from someone I saw on I think it was on the message board about this, or maybe even Twitter, I think, mentioning it. But I'm going to mention him again. You know what? I thought, even though he didn't have much to do, I thought he had a really good, solid game. I thought his use of the ball with his feet was excellent. There was one kick out to Adu-Adjei, actually, in the second half that really got a good attack going. He swept up quite well behind the defence. Handled really well. There was one time when he punched it where maybe he could have caught it, but he got a good punch in it and got distance, which is the important thing to do in that situation, as we've seen he didn't do in the opening game. I don't think he had much chance with the goal that was disallowed, but it didn't count, so it doesn't really matter in the end. So
I'd echo what you said. Everything he needed to do, he did. I can't remember exactly how deep into the second half it was, but there was a time when they got a cross in from the right and he came up well and collected it, just taking that pressure off the defence. That's what you want from a goalkeeper. You don't want them adding to the pressure the defence is already under, especially when you're only holding a 1-0 lead in a derby game. So he did everything that he needed to do, and hopefully more of these games can come where he didn't have to actually do much.
Yeah.
You know, even if you don't think he's a great goalkeeper, if he doesn't have to do that much in terms of saves, then, you know, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, because we know we can play the ball back to him with his feet, and we know he's going to get rid and deal with it pretty much every time. It allows us to be more comfortable at the back, and you know what? He's got that monkey off his back now. He's got that home clean sheet, you know, and that home win under his belt. And I have to say, just to round things up on that, it was nice to hear the Warwick Road end singing his name towards the end of the game as well. You know, so that, you know, he won't have been able to hear it because it was at the other end, but that would hopefully give him a nice little confidence boost. Defence, I thought the back three were excellent, to be fair, in this game. I thought, you know, but both combinations, I should say there, you know, the one that started out, I thought, you know, John Mellish, probably not quite as adventurous as he was in, you know, some of the other games, but over 2 games so far, but, you know, I thought he did his job really solidly, you know, kept it simple, let Williams do the running down the channels and Adu-Adjei. And I thought Terrell Thomas, like you said, I think he looks a real find, actually, as if, you know, one of those signings where you kind of look at it, I wouldn't say we're underwhelmed, but you're like, okay, it's a solid signing, you know, I can sort of get why you do it. But yeah, I think he's really stepped up and proved a real asset, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's just precaution, that injury. You seem to suggest that it was.
I think the fact that he continued for, what was it, an extra 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes afterwards, suggests that it's not something that's really serious. Like I said, it's probably just something that they're wanting to manage. And
when you got someone like Lavelle on the bench, you don't need to take the risk, do you? You know, he can slot in and do the job there. And on the other side, Aaron Hayden, what a warrior. Second half especially, I thought he was excellent. That's the best we've actually seen of him since he come back. You know, he covered across well, he swept, you know, he really spotted Archie Davis and took the ball full in the face, didn't he, in injury time, and he was straight up.
Oh my God, I could not believe that. And the funny thing was, I walked past his wife and 2 kids when I was leaving the ground, and I immediately thought, oh my God, I cannot imagine what your reaction would have been. Firstly, when he got hit in the face and went down like that, and secondly, when he just got up as if nothing had happened. Yeah. As if he hadn't just taken a ball clean to the face. Yeah, warrior, like you said.
Proper leader as well, and that's exactly what you need in your team. Fair, but I mean, like I said, Lavelle, when he came on half-time, I don't think he put a foot wrong, to be fair. He kept it simple with his passing. I think they said on the Carlisle Social Action on BBC Radio Cumbria this week, they were saying that the advantage Lavelle's got now, he's got 2 centre-backs either side of him who are actually quite comfortable on the ball, and then they're quite happy. I mean, yeah, Hayden's probably not as good as Mellish on the ball, maybe, but he still, you know, he still can use it really well, and it feels like we've got whatever back three combination we go with now, we've got players in there who are really capable of actually playing the ball out.
Yeah, and it's also, you've got to remember we're playing, you know, the drop in opposition from League 1 to League 2, as we found out, is so enormous. You know, obviously Lavelle was tested heavily against League 1 opposition, but he's not playing against players of that quality anymore. So his relative level is going to go up, you know, leaps and bounds, because the players he's playing against aren't as good. So yeah, I think for the people who, I heard a few people, you know, when we were on the ball and things like that, being like, oh, don't pass to Lavelle and stuff like that, just expecting there's going to be, you know, issues. But I think Simpson said after the game that, you know, Lewis and Lavelle, who were maybe 2 of the scapegoats last year, came in and did a solid job. And should restore some faith.
Yep, hopefully it will. Let's talk about Archie Davis then. He was the WhoScored.com man of the match with 7.8. I think Adu-Adjei got the club one, which completely makes sense. But I mean, what a find he's looking. And you know what amazed me after the game? Simo in his interview talked about him, and he said he doesn't. Davis himself admits he doesn't think he's fit enough yet, because he's coming from the Irish League and it's not quite, you know, the same intensity and standard. He thinks he's still got work to go on his fitness. God, if he's still got work to go on his fitness, imagine how good he's going to be come Christmas.
Yeah, he's looking really good. In his first 2 league games, averaging 2 key passes per game, 1 big chance created. He's just, there's the worry sometimes when you get in wing backs in, or people to play at wing back, is that they're going to come back and they're going to be useless defensively, and they're just going to get skipped past, and we're going to be really exposed. Maybe just because we're pushing him so high up the pitch and we're getting our fullbacks to basically mark the opposition fullbacks, is why, you know, maybe he's not being tested defensively as much. But when Kouyaté came on, Kouyaté did well initially, but then from then onwards, once Davies sort of knew what he was going to do, I think he handled him really well.
Yeah.
Like you said, going forward, he's looking to be the complete total package, and obviously we don't know what fee was paid for him, but it wouldn't have been a large one considering his contract situation, and it's a brilliant find.
Yeah, he looks a steal, and his playing style reminds me a little bit of Frank Simic in the way he's playing, actually, in the way he's using the ball and way he's running forward. Actually, I'm not entirely, but there's just little glimpse of it. Like, oh yeah, I can sort of see that. I think he's actually a better crosser than Frank was, to be fair. But I think Frank was probably a better defender. But yeah,
I just think you notice a real difference when he's on the ball and when he's dribbling.
Yeah.
Compared to other fullbacks, you compare him to like a Jack Ellis or someone like that who's obviously not a natural wing back, but then you look at him on the ball, gliding past players, going into the box, looking to cross.
Yeah,
it's such a refreshing sight, and one that hopefully we'll be able to see for a majority of the season.
Yeah, and I think I said this in the previous episodes, linking really well with Josh Ellis. Josh Ellis. Right. Josh, God, there's so many Jacks and Joshes in the team. Josh Vella is the player I'm talking about. He's linking really well with Josh Vella down that right. I think that they've got a really good understanding already, actually, which is really, really encouraging to see. And midfield, I mean, it's exactly what you want from that combination in midfield, the players we've got in there at the moment. They're probably, I was trying to work this out, they're probably something like 9-4-10 of choice midfield combination, really. Might even be lower, with allowing for the fact that you've got someone in there like Barkley, who's not really a defensive midfielder or a midfielder at all, and yet, they work so hard, and like you said before, they win the ball back because that's what they like to do, and then they tend to keep it quite simple, and because the wing backs are pushing forward so much, and John Mellish pushes forwards, they've got options to play to, haven't they?
There's a robustness about them, which can be probably annoying at times when they're not as crisp on the ball as you'd like them to be. But when we're pressing and trying to win the ball back in midfield and, we're going for second balls, I know Chris Lumsden said on the Carlisle social this week about the fact that pretty much every second header, or like the headers in the midfield, we won pretty much all of them. And, if we had a Dan Butterworth in midfield, then we probably wouldn't have. So it's sort of, I was going to say horses for courses. We've only got one horse to put on this course at the moment. But it's working for now. And I do stress for now because I think they will bring in somebody to plug that gap. But you've got to give them praise for what they're doing.
Yeah, I've no doubt they will. Barkley actually looks like he's enjoying himself a bit in midfield at the moment. He's look, is it a long-term option in there for him? I don't know yet, but I wouldn't rule it out. I think Lummy said on the Carlisle social, there's plenty of players down the years who've changed positions during their career when they've just filled in somewhere for
John Mellish.
Games. But John Mellish, he changed to midfield, then he changed back to defence.
Like Pokemon.
Yeah, Matty Robson ended up as a left wing back. At the end of his career, he started as a winger for us. It can happen. Players can change positions. Jack Ellis was a centre back for the youth team, and he's ended up as a right wing back. So don't entirely rule it out. I still would want to see a midfielder come in and take that up. And obviously, once Callum Guy's fit, he's going to slot in there, and he will make a big difference in that position. But what Barkley's shown is he's such a reliable player, and he's intelligent. He's intelligent enough to play the role and just get on with it and keep it simple. He doesn't do anything. There was one point where he tried to do something a little bit flashy in the first half.
He tried to reel that over by the Adu-Adjei.
Yeah, and he just...
And the words that came out of my mouth were, "Not there, Ben."
I know, not there at all. I don't know what he was... I don't think he entirely had the ball under control, which was probably part of the problem. But fair play him. I think he had a great... he had 2 shots on target as well during the... Or 2 shots at least during the game. So fair play to the lad. In terms of attack, as Johnny said, it looks like Wyke and Adu-Adjei just start to show the signs of a little understanding between the pair of them, aren't they? I think, as I've said, once Wyke gets a goal, he'll be fine. He'll go on to score quite a few. Adu-Adjei, I thought that, I wasn't 100% convinced in the first 2 games. I saw flashes, but I was like, is he going to be one of these flash in the pan strikers who comes in on loan and doesn't quite do it? But that, for me, showed me that he can be the real deal, potentially. I thought Theo Vassell's going to have nightmares about him. He's not going to look forward to the return game that come here next March, whenever it is, because he tore him apart at times, didn't he?
Yeah, and I'll let you know about your bad take at half-time when I saw you outside the paddock. But, to be fair, the from what I watched of him and Wyke against Stockport, they immediately looked like they had an understanding of, one's going to drop deep, the other one's going to be just off the shoulders, play around the corner, who's going to go into the box, who's going to be, which side of the box, all that sort of stuff. That understanding seemed to be there pretty early. And even against Gillingham, I don't know, I feel like I remember you saying you weren't fully convinced by him in that game either, but I thought the way that they were always so close together whenever you're going for a second ball, there was just, like I say, that immediate connection between the two of them that Craig mentioned, and I think that is hard to find. It's not something you can really manufacture. It's something that you can maybe develop over time, but the fact that that's happened so quickly, one, I think cements Adu-Adjei's place in the team, but I also think it probably limits Luke Armstrong and Georgie Kelly's chances of getting in the team unless they, come off the bench and score a number of goals in successive games.
Yeah, I think in the short term, I think that is going to be your partnership, isn't it, basically? As long as the two of them are fit, that's what you're going to pick. And, I really like listening to his post-match interview as well on our drive back down to Liverpool. He comes across as a really lovely lad as well, really down to earth, and that's what you want, someone who's clearly happy to be here and enjoying it. So that's really good to see. Generally, all-round decent performance. I thought it was good game management for us towards the end of the game, realising with the limitations of the midfield we had available and the fact that they had to play the full 90 because we didn't really have any options. I thought they really grounded out and did exactly what they had to do, and I'm fair play to the lads, really got there. But not quite the finished article, but there's some good signs so far, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. It wasn't a performance we're going to look back on for years and years and think, God, didn't we play well that day? But it's 3 points. That's all we needed.
Yeah.
It would have, had we have, scraped a 1-0, a late goal like they almost had and just got away with it, maybe we'd be looking at it and going, I don't know. But I think because of what we showed throughout most of the game, you can look at the end of the game where they're just throwing bodies forward, we're having to manage their attacks and say, you know what, we did well. Yeah,
absolutely. Did everything we had to do. I'll get a couple of signings in, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, and let's see where we go from there. Just want to talk a bit about the stuff off the pitch, though, before we wrap things up and do the X-Files. The matchday experience is just so good now, isn't it? I saw the screen at the Stoke game, but I think it wasn't until I really saw it again on Saturday before the Barrow game, and you see the size of it, you're like, that's enormous. Like,
it is massive.
Like, some clubs would love to have that in their ground, never mind outside for the fans to watch in the fan zone. It's remarkable, like, genuinely, to think we have something like that as a permanent fixture there. You've got your two shipping containers there. You've got your E-bar, the one that automatic pumping bar thing now as well, which is, I had a go in it. Works perfectly fine, very easy to use. Also you've got all your food options, you've got your DJ in there, get everything going. Music's a little bit loud for my taste, but that's just maybe
I think some people are saying that. I do get it, but I think it's one of those things that it's always going to be hard to balance. You're going to get some people who don't think it's too quiet or think it's too loud. So it's what it is, really. Yeah, and I spoke to a few people who went in the Warwick Road end who were raving about the new facilities in there and saying how much better it was, and they feel almost. You can imagine.
They feel very spoilt after years and years of what they've had to put up with there, But the only thing they said, can we get a couple of screens maybe in the fan zone in the Warwick Road end so they can watch whatever the early matches on there, which is maybe a fair point. If they could potentially do that. And then, the East Stand facilities, obviously we've not been there, but we've seen the tours and they look great. Everyone who was in the boxes seemed to be enjoying it. The rest of it, all the lounges are going to be finished off in time for the Tranmere game by the looks of things. So it just the turnaround, and I think back to just before COVID, and you think about how many people were standing outside the main stand before a game, waiting for the game and everything like that. There was no one there, was there?
No, not at all. Even think back to when the shipping containers and things like that were first introduced. It's improved exponentially since that time, and that wasn't even that long ago. I know COVID, it wasn't that long ago either, relative to, when most people have been watching this club. But, there's just how quick everything has developed is staggering. And maybe that's just because for years and years there wasn't as much progress as maybe would have hoped, and it's all coming at once. It's just there's such a lovely buzz about the stadium, about the fans. Everything culminates together to make a good atmosphere in the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that I saw when the club put up the tweet about the self-service bar on the thing, and I went and looked through the quote tweets, and a lot of it was fans from other clubs saying, I wish they'd do this down at our ground, or they wouldn't trust us with this at our ground, and all very, very envious. You can see people getting a little bit envious about what's happening at Brunton Park, which is it's a nice place to be.
Tom Pyatek wants. He's always said that's what he wants. He wants people to come here and be like, why can't we have this?
Exactly.
And that was usually us. We'd be going places and being like,
yeah,
God, this is nice, isn't it?
I mean, I remember going to Tranmere a couple of times and being like, and their marquee there as their fan zone being like, why can't we have something like this at Brunton Park? I think actually what we've got at Brunton Park, even though it's not covered, is better, to be honest. I think how they're going to work the whole cover situation, because obviously they've taken them down now, haven't they? So I don't know if they'll put maybe a few up just to give at least some cover there. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward. Right then, let's do League Two results from the weekend before we do the X-Files. First up, I mean, what a start to the Football League for Bromley. 2-0 win over Wimbledon.
Michael Cheek up front for them. Finally get his opportunity in the EFL, and boy, is he taking it.
He's having a remarkable start to life at Bromley. Should be noted, Wimbledon, even though it's a local sort of derby near to them, only got 450 tickets for this, so it might be a bit of a scramble for the game down there in November, possibly. We'll have to wait and see with that one. Obviously, we beat Barrow 1-0. Accrington 3, Harrogate 3. Did you see one of the Harrogate goals from this game?
I did. Pure EFL, just bliss.
Inject it into my veins. It was beautiful. It was, for those who haven't seen it, go and find it on Twitter. But basically, it's about 20 seconds of head tennis before someone just decides I've had enough of this and runs in and heads the ball past Michael Kelly into the back of the net to make it 3-3. Two teams that we kind of expect to struggle this season. So maybe not surprised it was a free scoring game, that one. A team that I think everyone thought after the opening day maybe they'll do a bit better than we expected. Bradford 0-0 draw at home against Salford City.
There was some controversy about the game. I don't know if you'd have seen it. The Andy Cook goal. It did go over the line.
It was a mile over the line. But there's no goal line technology in League Two. There is in the Championship. I didn't realise they still do it, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I thought VAR was getting introduced in the Championship this season, but seemingly not.
No, I imagine it cost a lot to do the Championship, I would have thought, but there you go. But yeah, 0-0 Bradford against Salford. Colchester, decent start to the season for them. Not a good start to the season for MK Dons, though. 2-0 win for Colchester.
Not at all. I know. Well, Colchester, they went 2-0 up pretty quickly against Wimbledon on the opening day, but then just completely collapsed once they went 2-0 up.
But they would have been encouraged by the fact that they scored 2 goals in that game because they've struggled to score in recent seasons. So
yeah. But yeah, MK Dons. I think they were saying on the social that Dean, what's his last name? Is it Dean Lewington?
Yeah.
I think he was starting in defence for them.
He's 40, isn't he now?
Yeah. So I don't know if they've got injury problems or what. But I'd imagine they must have if they're going to be starting him, as a left-sided centre-back. Yeah, well, didn't have Lawrence Maguire, who they signed the week. They've also they've got so many good midfielders that they can't pick all of them. They've got Tommy Lee on the bench and Connor Lemony Evans on the bench.
Greedy sods. We'll have one of them if they're not going to have them. Yeah,
I know.
We could do one of them, please. As you mentioned before, Crewe Alexandra 0, Chesterfield 5. Chesterfield scored after about 20 seconds, I think, in this game, something like that.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a finish for that first goal, but Crewe, they really have got a hangover from that playoff final, haven't they?
Well, they were so overperforming in terms of the expected goals and things like that, because he had Mickey Dimitri who got got close to, if not double-digit goals, which is just, you can't rely on that every season. It's just not sustainable. But yeah, did you see the video of the Crewe fan who chucked his season ticket off of his balcony where he lived?
Landed on the floor. He 100% went down. And got
of course,
that.
yeah, of course.
Do anything for the likes, won't they? But there you go. Grimsby Town got a 3-2 win over Cheltenham. Cheltenham are going to struggle this season, I think.
Another last minute, or not another last minute winner, but a last minute winner.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think from a free kick.
Yeah, good stuff for them. I'm looking at Grimsby. Have got that's the first win, isn't it? I thought they'd got a point in the first game, but they didn't. Fair dues. Morecambe 0, Gillingham 1. Good start from Gillingham, isn't it? Really, find themselves right up there at the top. We're not going to go through the table right now because at the end of the day it's only one game in, 2 games in. Sorry. Bit of a surprise one. Newport 3, Doncaster Rovers 1, especially because Doncaster took the lead in this one, didn't they?
Yeah, Newport started well. I think did they draw on the first day, or they had a decent. They scored a few goals, I think.
Didn't they play Cheltenham on the opening day? And they possibly lost or drew. I can't remember.
They lost 3-2.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So they've obviously got some goals in the squad.
Okay, they got a few goals in there, haven't they? A team that don't seem to have many goals in them is Tranmere. 2 games in, 2 0-0 draws. They drew 0-0.
They should have had a. I don't know if it had been I think it would have just been a free kick. But did you see what happened with Amari Patrick?
No.
So he went. I think Connor Ripley came out of his box to clear it. I think Amari Patrick went round him. Basically had an open goal, and the Port Vale defender came in, tackled him, didn't get the ball at all, and it wasn't given as a free kick. We didn't get a red card, nothing. Obviously ended in a 0-0 draw. And then Mike Dean, who he is a Tranmere fan, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, went on his Instagram story or something like that, be like, it's a disgrace that this wasn't given as a red card and all that sort of stuff, which is unusual for him to not be defending referees, but it was a honking decision.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but I'll very much take your word for it on that one. The last one from Saturday, Swindon 0, Walsall 4. I can see, again, Swindon really struggling this season. I don't know what it is. I mean, I watched the first half of their opening game against Chesterfield, and they really looked poor. And I think this maybe summed it up, because Walsall are not a team that I expect to do well this season.
No,
so,
I think Swindon could be quite all or nothing. There'll be some games where they probably play quite well, but then an annoying amount where they, really fall below the required level.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we are talking about the table, Walsall are actually technically top already. So, but that's they won their first game 1-0. So I think we just take it that Swindon are not very good. And finally on Sunday, Notts County 2, Fleetwood Town 2. I think there was a late goal from Notts County in this one as well.
Yeah, late penalty.
Yeah, so there you go. Good stuff. Right, that's the League 2 results roundup. Let's just quickly do the X-Files to wrap things up here. This is a belter to start off, isn't it, Adam? We're going to go to the Europa Conference League third qualifying round, second leg, where Luke Plange scored for HJK out of Finland in their 2-1 defeat to, I think it's Deshish, in that game. That tie actually finished 2-2 in aggregate, and HJK won on penalties, so they're through to the next round. He could be playing in the group stage of the Europa Conference League this season.
If Luke Plange lines up at Stamford Bridge with that HJK jersey on a year after what he did for us, that will be an immense achievement.
There's no justice in the world if that happens, quite frankly, so there you go. Back into English football, Sam Cosgrove, he scored for Barnsley in their 2-1 win at Lincoln. Jack Armour scored an own goal for Burton in their 3-3 draw with local rivals Mansfield Town. Bit of a backward forward game, that one, wasn't it, I think, by the looks of things. I think people expecting big things of Burton this season, and then maybe not quite found their feet yet.
They've just made a lot of signings, so it probably will take a little bit for them to gel, but there's always that risk when you bring in that many players that things aren't going to start quickly. Yeah.
Down into the National League, and this one Dan very much enjoyed. Jaden Harris and Ashley Nelson both scored for Sutton in their 5-0 win over Altrincham. It looks like Sutton are in good shape to come straight back up to the EFL, don't they, really, by the looks of things. They made some decent signings there. Mark Beck, he scored for Gateshead in their 2-0 win at Woking. Another little bit on this one. This was a bit of a counter game because it got delayed for a long time because someone who I've been suggesting we sign, Greg Ollie, suffered a horrific leg break in this game. And I've seen the tackle since. It's not a good tackle well
No.
after the ball's gone. It was, by all accounts, a player who's done that a few times, from what I've read. He was sent off, wasn't he? I think the lad.
Well, did you see the build up to it prior to the actual tackle? Because there was like 2 or 3 potentially yellow/red card tackles prior to it up the other end of the pitch.
No, I didn't
and then
see that.
I think Greg Ollie said that he's broken his leg, there's something wrong with his ankle, ruptured all the ligaments in his knee. Like horrible stuff.
Yeah, someone who scored the hat-trick on the opening day, for that to then happen to them, it's not great, that. But yeah, Gateshead, I think they're top of the National League possibly already, so they're certainly making up for lost time from last season where they were denied their playoff place. Down into the National League North, Jamie Proctor scored his first goal for Southport in their 2-1 win at Needham Market. Sam Fishburne, he scored for Scunthorpe United in their 3-0 win against Marine. Dropped down one more level, and Daft Simonton scored for Workington in their 1-1 draw with League 10. I'm going to go and watch them tomorrow night, actually, at Prescott Cable, so that should be fun. And Matty Douglas, he scored for Queen of the South in their 2-0 win over his former club, Annan Athletic, which leaves them top of Scottish League 1. So, yeah, good start to the season for Peter Murphy as manager of the Doonhamers. So there you go. That's everything wrapped up there, Adam. It's nice to be talking about a win, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's been a while.
Much more enjoyable than the dross we had to talk about at the time last season. Thank you once again to our sponsors, the Carlisle United Sports Trust, for their much appreciated support this season. In terms of upcoming episodes, we will be doing a preview of the MK Dons game. They'll be slightly different. And then a review on early next week. We're looking to sort out an episode with Tully House as well. I'm just trying to find a date where the curator is available to chat with me. And we've got a couple of interviews being lined up as well to come in the near future as well. And I think that's pretty much it. So hope you all enjoyed your weekend, Blues fans. Thank you very much for listening. And most importantly of all, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.